Nobody tells you how insidious self doubt is. It doesn't scream, it doesn't shout, it just silently convinces you to sit in the back row and stay there. And trust me, I was very comfortable in that back row. I had a system, a routine. I knew exactly which chair squeaked the least so that the teacher would notice me. I had practically built a life back there. But jokes apart, have you ever felt that? That relentless voice that tells you you're not good enough? Those whispers, don't even try because failure is inevitable. I have. And for the longest time, not only did I listen to it, I made it my ringtone. Greetings, everyone. My name is Nihar Dani, and let me take you 3 years back. Picture a boy sitting on his bedroom floor at 1 am. Exam results glowing on the screen in front of him. And he's crying. Not because he failed, but because he passed barely. And in that moment, he realized something far more painful. He didn't even believe in himself enough to try. That boy was me. Now, some of you might think, Nihar, at 1 am, were you not asleep? No, I wasn't, because apparently self doubt doesn't believe in office hours. But just a quick question. How many of you have ever sat in the back row, not only because you wanted to or because you thought you were cool, but also because some part of you had already resigned on deserving the front? How many of you have witnessed someone else's triumph and thought, why not me? And instead of seeking an answer, you just gave up looking? That was my reality. Every single day. My friends were scoring 80s and 90s and I was barely crossing 60. And every day someone, my parent, a teacher or a classmate would remind me of that gap. And especially that one relative who shows up at every family gathering with a, Beta, your cousin scored a 95. What happened to you? We all have that one relative. They are relentless. They are everywhere. And they have the perfect memory for everyone's marks, except their own child's. But with all seriousness, I had accepted that I was not capable of becoming the greatest. I told myself, some people are just born talented, and I am not one of them. But the question I never dared to ask myself was, what if average wasn't who I was, but merely who I had decided to become? Then one evening, scrolling through my phone, trying to escape my own thoughts, because watching random videos at midnight was a totally valid coping mechanism, I came across an old interview of Virat Kohli. Now consider this man for a moment. He's one of the greatest players to ever grace the game. Confidence personified, walks onto the field like he owns every single blade of grass on it. And yet, he said something that dismantled everything I thought I knew about him. He said, I was dropped from the team. People wrote me off. But I never stopped believing in myself, even when no one else did. Wait, dropped? Written off? The Virat Kohli? I literally paused the video. I looked at my phone, I looked at the ceiling, I looked back at my phone. Because if this man, who would go on to become one of the greatest of all times, stood exactly where I was standing, doubted, criticized, underestimated, then what? What was my excuse? If he could falter at the highest level, on the grandest stage, with millions of people watching, and still rise, why couldn't I, a boy in a small room with nobody even watching, do the same? That night, I confronted a question that altered the entire trajectory of my life. Am I genuinely not good enough? Or have I never given myself a real chance? And for the first time, I didn't have a sarcastic answer ready. So I stopped asking, am I intelligent enough? And started asking, am I disciplined enough? I moved to the front row, my old back row chair, perhaps relieved. I asked questions I was once too intimidated to ask. I failed, repeatedly, relentlessly, but every single time, I rose again. Because here's what nobody tells you about failure. It isn't the antithesis of success, it is the currency of it. And by the end of 10th grade, I scored an 90. Now my relatives were shaken. But honestly, marks were never the real triumph. The real triumph was the morning I looked into the mirror and for the first time in years, I didn't avert my gaze. I looked at myself and said, "Okay, there you are. I've been looking for you." Virat Kohli once said, "Self belief is a muscle. You don't get it once and keep it forever. You cultivate it every single day with nobody even watching, nobody even applauding, and especially when that relative is not around." So let me ask you a question in this very room at this very moment. How many of you are sitting exactly where I once sat, doubting your own worth, convinced that someone else's success forecloses any room for your own? How many of you are one decision, just one away from transforming everything? Because here is what I have learned and what I want you to carry long after you leave this room. You do not need the world to believe in you first. You do not need the validation to begin. You just need to take one step today with whatever you possess and wherever you stand, even if that step is moving from the back row to the front. Because if a boy who once thought he was the most average person in the room, a boy with a squeaky chair strategy and a self-doubt ringtone could discover his fire, so can you. Thank you.